Between the two of them.
The inside of Coates.
Parker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome along to the VRRC, where the Touring Car Championship Season 5 of Touring Car Racing here at the VRRC is heading down towards crunch time. We're only a few weeks from crowning our next champion, and although one driver is stealing a bit of a march on the rest of the competition, it is still all to play for as we arrive at a really unique and challenging circuit for the next pair of races in the championship. It's Andy McEwan here in the commentary box to talk you through the action, joined not by Jack Oliphant. Jack, I'm afraid, has had a Basil Fawlty moment, I believe, and is not feeling particularly well here this evening, so we wish him the very best. We'll have him back on the broadcast again next week. Instead, I'm joined by our resident expert, Lewis Edwards. Lewis, great to have you back in the box. You stepped in for me when I wasn't feeling too well last week. The super sub, we're going to have to start calling you, but you were, therefore, here last week to enjoy the two races at the Red Bull Ring. I sadly missed those two races, and I believe I missed the first proper wet racing of the season.
Yep, you did. You missed the rain that was pouring down on the Red Bull Ring consistently throughout the whole race weekend, if you will. We had rain in qualifying, rain in race 1, and rain in the reverse grid of race 2. And it was interesting to see quite a difference among the drivers in how they liked the rain and how they got on with it. So we had a bit of a jumbled up order in the end.
Which is what we like to see, and it gave us a few interesting results, because look at that. There are 3 names on screen who scored the most points across those two races, and none of them are Jack Smith. Jack Smith having a little bit of an up and down night, and therefore it was Jordan Taylor with what has to be his best week of racing so far at the VRRC, who came out with the top scores from the night, scoring 4 points more than Nicky Taylor, with Elliot Daltonaires scoring well too, and that's significant really for his championship hopes. He had to try and take a few points out of Jack Smith. Jack will, I would imagine, be using last week's results as dropped scores, so it's not the end of the world for him. He's still got a decent points lead, as we'll see in a moment, but Elliot Daltonaires at least on the right track, and unsurprisingly, perhaps Jordan Taylor was given the Driver of the Round award, because, Lewis, like I said, he really sort of found a way to achieve his potential last week. We've said all along that he's got the potential, he's got the outright pace, but maybe just lacked a bit of good fortune here and there. So far this season, actually, he's been a little off the pace, so I'm sure he was very happy to score so well a week ago.
Yeah, I think Jordan really gelled with a combination of the track and the car, and just the rain as well played into his hands nicely. He seems to go really quite well in the rain. He is also a real-life racing driver, so maybe some of that real-world experience helped him with, the sort of the lines you have to take, getting the feel for the car. But interestingly, the top 3 who scored the most points are all real-life racing drivers. So it seems like that real-life driver advantage really helped them out in the rain.
Well, exactly, because we've mollycoddled our drivers for far too long, I think, here at the VRRC, and kept them away from wet racing, and I'm all for it. I know that there were a few incidents last week, but that is to be expected, really, given the fact that lots of these drivers don't have a huge amount of experience racing in the rain, either certainly on the sim here at the VRRC, and yeah, no great surprise there, really, that it was those who have done it for real who perhaps just took to it a little bit more quickly. Well, what does all that mean for the championship standings? As I said, Jack Smith, actually with his second consecutive relatively low-scoring week, at least by his standards anyway, he was still about the 4th highest scoring driver last week, I think, but that did become the second of his 2 drop scores. So he's had 2 slightly off weeks. To put it in perspective, Jack Smith only scored 34 points last week at Red Bull Ring and 32 points at Barcelona the week before. At the start of the season at Magny and Brno, he scored 52 and 54 points respectively, so about 20 points less scored by Jack Smith than some of his earlier rounds. However, because he uses them as drop scores, he's still got a decent little lead over Elliot Daltonaires, who conversely had one of his higher scoring nights of the season. And then it's very, very close. He's 3 points clear of Nicky Taylor, who is 3 ahead of Oliver Gibson, who is then 7 clear of Joel Lask. He's got a 4-point cushion over Jordan Taylor. He's 2 ahead of Andy Carroll, who is 5 ahead of Fabrizio Torri. It's very, very tight for second on back, isn't it, Lewis? But what are the chances over these final 3 weeks that any of them are realistically going to catch Jack Smith.
Well, they won't be pleased to know that Jack's car is going to be 5 kilograms lighter this week, as he's dropped down to level 4 driver ranking ballast, which means he sheds some of the 50 kilograms that he was running with. So he's now only about 10 to 15 heavier than those around him in the championship. But it seems like whenever Jack is somewhere off the pace, it's Elliott who's picking up the pieces at the moment, scoring usually on the podium at the worst. So he's kind of doing a typical Elliott thing where he just plods along, gets the podiums where he can, not necessarily fighting for wins very often. He's always just consistently banking those podium finishes, and then it just begins to rack up as the season goes on. Those nice consistent finishes bring him into that championship fight. Now we're getting towards the business end of the season. I think he really needs to step up and put in a properly big heavy-hitting performance in terms of points scored, because normally in deciders he struggles a little bit to pull it out when it really, really matters.
That's a good point you raised, though, about Elliott really taking advantage of Jack having an off night, because those last 2 weeks I mentioned Jack Smith didn't score too well. At Barcelona, Elliott Dalton was the highest point scorer of the night. He was the second highest, joint second highest actually, point scorer a week ago at Red Bull Ring. So yeah, you're absolutely right. He's had his best weeks when really Jack Smith had his worst. Also worth mentioning that Elliott Dalton missed the third round at Mugello, so he's dropping a 0 as part of his drop scores. It's all a little bit complicated, and by the end of the season it only gets even more complicated, so make sure you bring a calculator to the final few rounds. Now then, Lewis, as we get closer to the end of the season, the reality starts to dawn upon some of the drivers that maybe they'll be receiving one of the really good prizes up for grabs. Anyone within the top 5 at the end of the season will not be leaving empty-handed.
Absolutely. We've got plenty of wonderful prizes, so a big thank you to all of our partners for providing these for the series. If you win first place, you can get yourself a wonderful Cammus direct drive wheel and the wheel rim on screen and a nice large trophy. If you finish in second place, I believe that's an Aegon by AOC 34-inch display and a slightly smaller trophy to remind you that you lost, as Martin Brundle once said. Third place, you'll get yourself a very wonderful Riggs GT seat and a slightly smaller trophy for your cabinet as well. Fourth place, you'll get yourself a really nice VRRC jacket, which can be customised with your name and number. I've got a polo shirt on the way with Edwards and 78 on it. And in fifth place, you can get one of those polo shirts or t-shirts. For the drivers of the round, there's a wonderful jacket and medal up for grabs. And of course, we have the 2 Fan of the Round awards, one for somebody who we just think has put something really good in the chat, whether that be exciting, supportive, just a comment we really thought stands out in a good, positive way. And then we've got one which will be given to a random YouTube subscriber. So plenty of wonderful things for people to be looking forward to getting to at the end of the season. But tonight, we're at Zandvoort, and we've got a little bit of a weather forecast from our resident YouTube commenter, Dave.
Hi VRRC, it's me Dave from YouTube chat, here tonight to give you a weather report. So, this week at Zandvoort, there's not going to be any weather, it's just a bit cloudy. So, nothing really to remember, just average, just like Josh's racing career. Had to get that in there. So that's all from me here, and have a good night's racing. Yeah, that's all.
Hello and welcome to Zandvoort. I'm Lewis Edwards and I'm going to be taking you around the track guide for this, the 6th round of the Cammus Simulation Touring Car Championship. Looking to brake just before the 100 metre board on the left hand side here, down to 3rd gear, taking a later apex for turn 1, controlling the oversteer. In the BMW it does like to get a little bit loose on the exit. We stay left for turn 2, which is going to be a little quick flick to the right, holding it in 4th gear, sacrificing it to open up the entry to 3, using quite a lot of this banking to rotate the car, being a little bit careful on the exit as it's quite easy to run wide and pick up a track cut or run onto the grass. 5 and 6 are completely flat out, and then we're just going to be making our way towards turn 7, making sure not to clip the grass on entry here. Again, taking a later apex and just trying to power through the corner, not getting too greedy with this exit curb. We're going to stay left again to open up turn 8, not using any of this exit curb on the left-hand side, going into turn 9, as I find that unsettles the car, then just trying to keep it balanced through 9 and into 10, trying to set up a good run onto the back straight. Just going to be a bit careful on the power in the BMW here. Now using the hybrid on the back straight, we're going to begin to drift our way over to the left-hand side for the trickier little chicane of 11 and 12, braking at the 100-metre board down to third gear, squirt of power in the mid part, down into second, and then back up to third to get that rotation, but then the short shift to get a good exit. And we're already approaching the final couple of corners. We're going to hold it in 4, flick it in, back to the power as soon as possible, setting up a really nice exit, not getting too greedy with the exit curb, and then the line of least resistance through the banking of 14, and then just keep it in the middle of the road, and then just keep your foot flat to the floor for the run to the finish line, and that completes the lap of Zandvoort.
Welcome back, everybody, to Zandvoort, where qualifying is underway. I'm so sorry. I'm still recovering from the day weather forecast. That is possibly the greatest idea in all of sim racing broadcasting. Cracking stuff from Dave. We look forward to hearing from you again in the future. And appropriately enough, we are focused on his favourite driver, Josh Martin, as he makes his way through the final couple of corners here at Zandvoort, which is a circuit, as we just saw there, Lewis, which certainly has its challenges. We're using the fully up-to-date version with the sort of exaggerated banking that was added to create a bit more overtaking in Formula 1. I think it sort of worked, but I'm intrigued to see how some of these corners with the extra banking affect touring car racing, a form of racing where overtaking usually isn't all that much of a challenge, and really now with these extra lines that you can take through some of these tighter corners, might open up even more side-by-side action. Absolutely,
you're seeing very well from Josh Martin there that the line of going high on the banking through the hairpin of turn 3 does in fact work as it does in Formula 1. Some games it doesn't quite work out as being faster. That must be to do with the physics and the camber of the corner, but in Assetto Corsa, going high on the banking, sending the speed in like Josh did, that is the way to go. But you leave the door open, so somebody could send a move up the inside. As we've got a wild John Jones off to the side there as Josh slides his way through the middle part of the lap. But this is a very technical circuit, so I'm actually quite impressed that the drivers are so evenly matched for a track where I think the driver can make a real big difference through that middle part of the lap.
Yeah, reasonably long lap as well. 1 minute and 40 seconds at the moment is Oliver Gibson's time that tops the qualifying session. So a reasonably long lap. Like you said, a lot of corners crammed into the lap as well. And yeah, particularly impressive to see how tight qualifying times are, although that's becoming the norm really here at the VRRC, isn't it? Especially in these touring car categories. Drivers now starting to get more and more familiar with the cars. And that's actually one of the things that I really like about using the touring cars in back-to-back seasons, because I do think drivers have gained in experience and confidence in the cars and have been able to really hone their skills over the last couple of seasons or so. So yeah, good to see just how close together everyone is in qualifying. Josh heads to the pit lane then, but here comes Oliver Gibson, current pole sitter. He, I think, is possibly also heading for the pits now. He's going to complete the lap time. That's good. And the BMW man comes across the timing line, aiming to be to 140.7. Not quite able to do it on this time. Carl Felvis is currently second. Joel Lask third. Andy Dorman in fourth position ahead of Nicky Taylor. Then Fabrizio Torri, Craig Curtis, Andy Carroll, Elliot Daltonaires down in ninth, and Chris Blakey in 10th. And, well, points leader Jack Smith only 13th for the time being, Lewis.
Yeah, at the moment, that is the case, but he's only half a second off pole position. So it seems like the fine margins are making a big difference. I mean, you can see the gap between Joel Lask and Andy Dorman is 1 millisecond. So Joel just needs to find a couple of, Andy needs to find a couple of milliseconds and he'll be above Joel, and that's it. A couple of people are, I think, backing off. I've seen some serious opposite lock from Josh Martin there. That doesn't look quite ideal for Josh. Always happy to provide the content for the stream.
Yeah, I don't think that was the fastest line through the banked corner there, was it, at Hugenholtz, and ricocheted off the barriers, gets well out of the way there from Fabrizio Torri as he comes through down into Shivlak, this really famous right-hander that's caught so many drivers out over the years. Yeah, quite a few drivers I think were coming out of the pit lane just then. Certainly Craig Curtis was one of those in the Vauxhall. Here comes Jack Smith then, crossed the line, 13th at the moment. Does find an improvement now, but only to 8th place. But to Lewis's point, he's within a quarter of a second of pole position. That is incredibly tight now at the front of the field. Jack, as always, looks nice and relaxed, very much ignoring the elephant in the room as he concentrates on hitting the right line through this opening sector. We ride on board with the BMW. Drives high up the banking. Now, I noticed some drivers are dipping their wheels to the right of that white line through that corner, Lewis. I'm sure there's been a discussion about track limits before this week's racing. That legal within our rules for this week?
Legal, but I believe that surface is a lot less grippy, so if you're out there, you're probably losing speed anyway, so that kind of self-regulates quite nicely for us, so we don't have to look at it.
Good news. There we go. That's what we like to hear. The last thing we want is to spend the whole evening talking about track limits, because that is very, very boring indeed. Right then, Jack Smith continuing to push on. How's this lap looking? He's not improved in the first sector. Andy Carroll is improving within his middle sector, I notice. He's 5th fastest at the moment. And any time someone pops up with a personal best sector, then there is scope maybe for some big improvements in position as well, because the times are so tight. So Joel Last going green in the first sector of his latest lap as well. He looks pretty strong. Remember, he sits 3rd place at the moment. Carroll then over the top of the hill, down into Shivlak, through this long right-hander, where you've really got to lean on that left front tyre. And we wait with interest to see what Andy Carroll's next sector is going to be. Big improvement, meanwhile, for Andy Dorman. Andy Dorman onto the front row of the grid with a purple final sector within half a tenth of pole position. So Andy Dorman having another one of those nights, it would seem, Lewis, where he is right on the pace.
Yeah, Andy, he occasionally has this kind of one round where he turns up and he's right on the pace. He's always very quick in the practice servers, but he doesn't seem to be able to hook it up as well in the actual session. But tonight, it seems like he's well and truly got the car hooked up nicely for him, and he's up into 2nd place. I mean, really good result for him so far.
Yes, he is. Through the quick right-handers he goes in the Ford Focus. Haven't really seen a lot of the Ford Focus in our latest Touring Car Championships, but it looks like a pretty rapid car, doesn't it? And certainly a car that's doing well in real-world touring car racing at the moment, and therefore not a huge surprise, maybe it should be, to see this car running well. So we're into the final 4 minutes. A few drivers now starting to run out of tyre grip, I think. Fewer and fewer personal best sectors being posted. Elliot Dalton-Ayres just put in a personal best middle sector. He's way down in 10th place now, so 2 places behind Jack Smith as it stands, and that is not ideal. Perhaps then it's going to be down to the likes of Nicky Taylor to try and score some good points tonight. Down towards the end of the lap comes Dorman then. Is this looking like an improvement? I don't think it is particularly. Dalton-Ayres did just improve though, and he goes 9th, so he's now right behind Jack Smith on the grid, and within a few hundredths of the championship leader.
Yeah, he's chipping away at it, but he's going to need a bit more of an improvement if he wants to capitalise on Jack's less than ideal 8th place. But we don't know what kind of a lap Jack is on at the moment. If we scroll on and have a look at the timings, it looks like he's on an outlap, so he's preparing for 1 or 2 more goes at it, depending on where on the track he is. But yeah, 8th and 9th for our 2 protagonists in the championship. Nicky Taylor is only in 6th place as well. He is 3rd in the championship, so it's proving not to be so ideal for those in the championship battle who do have slightly heavier cars. Maybe the weight is playing a bit of a part in that.
And a part of that, I'm sure, is just the fact that the lap times are so tight. You only have to be off by a couple of tenths and you're right down the running order. But also, this is one of those circuits, I would expect, Lewis, where that weight would affect you perhaps a little bit more. There's quite a lot of stop-start stuff where the weight sort of hinders you under braking. You have to brake earlier than some of the lighter cars. Under acceleration, your car doesn't get out of corners like this one, for example, quite as well as some of the lighter cars. And then even through the high-speed stuff, that extra weight, it affects the way the car's handled, doesn't it? Particularly in a front-wheel drive car, a bit more understeer might start to creep in, and that will absolutely destroy your lap times around here.
And it'll destroy the tyres in the race. I think having that extra weight means you just have to think about consciously what you're doing with the weight transfer more, and that kind of mental capacity spent on just trying to get the lap time out the car is mental capacity you're not spending thinking about, well, right, how am I going to overtake the person in front of me? Where do I need to defend the person behind? And because you're so focused on it, it also makes you more prone to mistakes as well, given the car's then harder to drive with the weight. So it is definitely a big penalty around such a technical circuit like this one, but the drivers are all very skilled. They've got that ballast for a reason, so I think it's evening itself out quite nicely, which is being shown by just how close the times are.
Indeed. So we're getting a few other improved sectors coming in now, including Oliver Gibson actually going quicker in the first sector than he has so far. Let's wait and see whether he's going to be able to improve then and further extend his pace advantage in qualifying. Through the final turn comes the DK Power BMW. And this run to the line is going to be an interesting one. Personal best in Sector 1. Sector 2 was not an improvement there, and I think he is down on the Delta. Yeah, crosses the timing line, and in the end it's 1 minute 41.2, so about half a second or so away from his previous best. But Andy Carroll, with 2 personal best sectors, I think is about to improve. In time, yes, but not in position, I don't think. I think he was already 6th place, and 6th is where he stays. So maybe just ran out of tyres there towards the end of the lap. He has got time for one more go, though, if he wants to, and it looks as though he's pushing on. Jack Smith now with a personal best in the first sector, and he is a driver who could really do with an improvement here, Lewis, because as the championship leader, knowing that the drop score situation is no longer looking quite as favourable for you, the last place really you want to be starting this first race of the evening is mid-grid.
And he's just dropped a tenth of a second after we went on board with him. Ooh, Phoenix car off to the left-hand side. He's had to go around that, but just about managed to get around nicely. So he's pretty much dead even on his time. He's shaking his head on the Zoom call. He's not happy with this one. I think that did potentially cost him a little bit of time. So he's getting there. He's going to improve ever so slightly, which could put him up to 7th place as long as his run down the straight is fairly similar. But still, 7th place on the grid is not going to be where he wants to be.
And absolutely, as the Oracle foretold, 7th place for Jack Smith, so good effort that for him, but he doesn't look very happy, does he? And I think he knows that he's got a tough opening race of the night ahead of him, but, you know, he can't really grumble at that. He is only 2/10 off pole position. This is not a case of cars being hampered or the ballast hurting him. As we've said, he's lighter actually this week than he has been for most of the season. It is simply how tight the times are. It really is remarkable how evenly matched everybody is. That was an improvement from somebody I think I saw there towards the front. Was that Nicky Taylor maybe? Or no, it might have been someone a bit further back improving. Carl Felvis is improving though in the middle sector. Only needs to find, oh well, never mind, about 100th of a second or so to improve upon 3rd, but he ain't going to do it by taking that line through the final turn. Elliot Dalton Ayres, meanwhile, through the final corner, he's not improving in the sectors. And I think he's going to head for the pit lane. Yes, he is. So most drivers heading to the pits at the end of an entertaining and very, very competitive and close, ultimately, qualifying session. It is, though, Oliver Gibson who is on pole position, and we'll be chatting to him on the other side of this quick break. Welcome back, everybody. Qualifying done here at Zandvoort, and possibly the most competitive and evenly matched qualifying session of the season sees a DK Power BMW on pole position, but not the one you might be expecting. And well, actually, maybe we should, because Oliver Gibson's qualifying efforts this season have, by and large, been pretty strong. And it is Oliver who joins us in the commentary box now as the pole sitter, not for the first time this season. Oliver, you really do seem to have qualifying down this time.
I mean, I don't know what happened that time. It was one of those laps where you know you can do it, but you don't really you can't execute that lap. So to be honest, when I saw the Delta coming to the line, I was like, okay, there we go. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those laps that you can't really explain, but it happened, kind of.
Well, luckily, you don't have to explain it. You just have to do it, and you get the points. So that's good, and a positive start to your evening so far. Winning here, I think, is going to come down a lot to the what happens in the first 30 seconds or so of the race. Obviously, we would expect you to get a good launch in the BMW, but you really rely on the front end of the car through that first sector. Are you at all worried about fending them off on cold tyres?
I mean, I'm worried about fending them off the whole race. It's going to be a hell of a challenge. I mean, they're all, as you saw with the gaps, they're all so close, and I think they're so consistent as well. I don't know if with the cold tyres, I can really keep. I mean, obviously, I'm going to get a gap off the line, hopefully, with the rear-wheel drive, but that gap's probably going to fall. I mean, it's going to fall all the way back down to alongside me, I think, after the first sector. So, yeah, I mean, it's just I'm going to try and do another Barcelona. Probably not going to work out because I don't know if I have the consistency that they do. So, yeah, I'll try the Barcelona again.
That's interesting. That's interesting then. So consistency is going to be important here. And of course, with everyone being so evenly matched, they'll probably be quite close behind you. You open the door for one, and the others are all going to try and pounce straight away, aren't they?
Yeah, it's been like karting, really. If you go offline, everybody's going to steam past you, and it's not going to be a fun time. So I'm just going to try and hit my apexes, stay on the grey stuff and not the run off the track, and stay in the white lines, hopefully, and keep out the gravel.
Yes, that's definitely. I'm no professional racing driver, but even I can tell you that's probably a good idea, Oliver. Championship-wise, bit of up and down last couple of rounds, hasn't it been? Certainly last week at Red Bull Ring didn't quite go to plan, but you're still there fourth in the points. And, okay, Jack's some way ahead, but he's kind of starting to use up his drop scores as well. Now he's not qualified so well tonight, so I'm sure it's not lost on you, the effect that a strong night tonight could have on your championship hopes.
Yeah, I mean, a win would put me right in it, I think. Well, not right in it, but definitely a lot closer than I am at the moment. So, yeah, I'm just going to try and keep getting these points and hopefully not have a repeat of last week, because that was that was not great. But especially after I think that was the race after Barcelona, so that wasn't particularly good. But yeah, I mean, as long as I can have a better race than I did last week, that's all I'm hoping for. Just good points, not a drop round, and I mean, a win would be night made.
Well, we wish you the very best of luck, Oliver. You've certainly put yourself in the best position to try and get that latest race victory. Hopefully we'll be chatting to you after the race. Best of luck.
Thank you.
So Oliver Gibson then, pole position for our first race of the evening. But interesting there, Lewis Edwards, not necessarily fancying his chances in the early stages. And, well, if anyone else is listening, any of the other drivers on the grid, that will give them maybe a little bit of hope. And I think certainly those who are lining up immediately behind him, they'll know how important it will be to be aggressive here at the start.
Yeah, but the last time he said that, it did do a lights to flag victory in the first race, so
True.
it might not mean so much when you look at it that way. But yeah, I think he's kind of got a bit of a championship head on at the moment. He probably realises that Andy Dorman isn't really in the fight for a championship. If he goes for a move, a 50-50 move on him, he might just give him the room and just let him go and take the second place, because it sounds like he just wants to bank some serious points, and if that's a win, that's great. So I think he's really thinking with his championship head on, whereas it's going to be a different story for those thinking with their championship head on, starting from 8th and 11th on the grid for Jack and Elliott.
It's a difficult one, isn't it, for Oliver? Because, yeah, I take your point. He doesn't necessarily need to be fighting people too hard who have less to lose than he does, especially when he is in a position to outscore his championship rivals anyway. But at the same time, these opportunities to outscore the likes of Jack Smith and Elliott Dalton-Ayres by a significant amount don't come about every race. Remember, you get 25 points for winning a race. So let's say, for argument's sake, that Elliott can win the race from pole position, then maybe he gets the fastest lap as well. That's worth a bonus 3 points. So he could realistically take 28 points out of this race, whereas if Jack Smith finishes where he starts, it's only 13 points. So that's a 15-point gain for Oliver Gibson. If he starts slipping down to second or third, then he's not necessarily capitalising as much as he needs to on the maybe bad night for his two nearest championship rivals. So it's a difficult one. He does need to try and maximise this opportunity, but without taking risks. A lot easier said than done.
Yeah, I think for Oliver, it's all about scoring the maximum amount of points without risking losing them to a crash. Because it's all well and good if you come home in first place and it's comfortable, but the second you have someone with very similar pace on your bumper, you don't want to take too many risks to try and keep them behind at the risk of ending up in the gravel trap. So, yeah, it's a difficult balancing act, which is why the people who get it right are usually very, very deserving champions. But we are going to find out very shortly how he gets on.
Indeed. So let's see what happens then. We're ready to get the first race of the night underway. We've got Oliver Gibson on the right, on pole position in the pink and black BMW. On the left, Andy Dorman, the red and blue Ford. Then the Hyundai of Carl Felvers, followed by the Honda of Nicky Taylor. So 4 different makes of car represented across those first 2 rows of the grid. We are ready to go racing in Zandvoort then. Relatively long run down into the Tarzan hairpin at the start of the lap. Who is going to get there first? The red lights go on. They go out. Now we're away and racing, and Oliver Gibson, as predicted, gets a good start. Jack Smith, interestingly, not that strong away, but Josh Martin was trying to make some moves to the outside line. Gibson leads then. Who will be second? Dorman or Felvers? It's Felvers, full of confidence around the outside line through the first corner, and that again now will add the pressure to Oliver Gibson out in front, because we know that Felvers is not going to back out of a chance for a good result here. Meanwhile, further back, Jack Smith still sat in 8th position. He's got Andy Carroll just ahead. And Jack takes that wide line. Look at the extra momentum that he gets off the corner. Drags himself level now with the Hyundai, which has dropped down a few places from where it started. And Jack Smith picks one up and goes 7th.
Josh Martin's 4th, so if you gave him a little pep talk or anything, Dave, it's worked for now. He's up there in 4th place, using the start from the BMW to good effect. He's looking to make a move on Andy Dorman. Kyle did a very good job to get the car off the line quickly, actually. It's very rare we see front-wheel drive cars being able to jump each other on the starters. Oh, Josh is going for the move.
That's a difficult place to make a move. Can he get the job done? Andy Dorman hangs on. Josh Martin and Andy, in fact, both jump on the hybrid button immediately. So does Nicky Taylor behind. And it might be Nicky now who tries to take advantage, because Martin's down on momentum. Up the inside, looks Nicky Taylor. Josh Martin desperately late on the brakes. He's too late on the brakes. Off into the gravel he goes. Bounces back on the road. Joel Lask is alongside him now as well. And a great example there, Lewis, of how quickly your fortunes can change when the field is this evenly matched. If you go for a move, you'd better better make sure you make it stick, otherwise you'll probably start losing places.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Nicky just stuck his nose in a bit too late there, and instead of Josh just turning across and taking the collision, he decided to back out and take the gravel so he can carry on from 6th. As Oliver defending into turn 1, he did feel the need to defend there, but he's gone a bit deep into turn 1. This could open the door for Kyle. No, Oliver's got a good exit, so the BMW's strong in the traction there, but now Kyle might have an opportunity into 3. He's going to go for a different line, take an earlier apex. Is he going to be able to get the run?
It is a fascinating corner, that, isn't it? Your exit speed so important, and he's on the hybrid. Gibson didn't jump to the hybrid button, and Felvis in the end makes very easy work of the BMW. So Kyle Felvis to the lead then, and Gibson, I have to say there, Lewis, doing exactly what you said he might. You realised that Kyle was quicker than him at this phase of the race. They're still pulling a gap on the rest of the field, so it was easy enough there, really, for Gibson to just drop back into second place, keep his powder dry, live to fight another day, and maybe as the race wears on, the race might come to him, because this is a track with lots of right-handers where that left front tyre on the Hyundai might start in the second half of the race to let go.
Yeah, and I think Kyle's down in about 8th or 9th in the championship order, so similar story to Andy Dorman. He's not really up there in the fight for first place at the moment. He's going to need some very good results to drag himself back into contention. So I think Oliver's just content to sit there. He's also got 2 more hybrid deployments available to him than Kyle. So I think he might just be content to sit in the slipstream, bank those hybrids, and maybe try and mount an attack later on in the race, as he's still not using that hybrid as he is now. So everybody on the grid unilaterally decides that the exit of the banking is a good place to use the hybrid, except for Andy Dorman, who decides not for me just yet. But they're all fairly similar on pace at the moment, but small little gap beginning to open between Andy Dorman and Oliver, and I think Nicky and Joel Lask are slowly edging towards him now.
Yes, and getting away from Josh Martin, who is still 6th, so he's actually still 1 place higher than he started. So too Jack Smith in 7th. Elliot Dalton-Ayres, though, stuck down in 11th place, just didn't make any progress off the line. There he is, looking, the Phoenix Sim Racing Hyundai, stuck behind Craig Curtis. He's got a small gap back to well, in fact, quite a big gap back to Fabrizio Torri, who's just been overtaken by Chris Blakey. Fabrizio Torri was winning races a couple of weeks ago at Mugello, and now really does seem to be struggling in the middle part of the season, but the very, very pleasant and friendly Italian will continue to race hard and may well be thinking about that second race later on, where the full reversed grid could put him somewhere near the pointy end again. But yeah, Elliot Dalton-Ayres not really having the race that he needed to here, is he?
No, he's not. We said in the build-up that he needs to just keep doing what he's doing to try and put the pressure on Jack Smith by capitalising on his bad results. And at the moment, Jack's opening that advantage quite a bit now, because Elliot's down in 11th. Nicky Taylor's up there in 5th. He's going to be looking at second place in the championship. Oliver's second, potentially with a fastest lap towards the end of the race. He could then drag himself quite close to the fight for second. So I think Elliot needs to try and blitz his way through the cars. But this is the problem with the times being so close. He's not really faster than these people. He's there because that's where his pace is. He's really going to have to pull out something special to try and make progress.
Yes, he is. It's always so difficult to overtake someone who's running within even really 2 or 3 tenths of a second a lap of you. You need a bigger delta than that, a bigger advantage in speed than that over the car ahead to really be able to make an easy pass. So yeah, not going to be an easy thing to overtake when everyone's as even as they are tonight. Joel Lask here sat in a fairly strong 4th position. Joel Lask 5th in the points, but within touching distance really of that top 2, so very much a driver we mustn't write out of contention just yet. The other Phoenix Sim Racing Hyundai running pretty strongly, so it goes to show that the car and team are operating well. It's just that Elliot Dalton-Ayres is having one of those really difficult nights tonight. His teammate therefore flying the flag for the squad as they turn through now this really difficult middle sector, those ever-tightening right-handers before we then head into the very tricky left-hander. Again, this corner seems to go on and on and on and on and on forever. Out of it they come, and up towards the chicane, where the race leaders are separated by only just under 0.6 of a second. That gap is really not changing, is it? It maybe goes up to 0.7, back down to half a second, but really staying within that 0.6 of a second bracket constantly, which is good news for Gibson. He needs to stay really as close to Felvis now as he can, in the hope that the second half of the race favours the BMW.
Yeah, and they've pulled another few tenths on Andy Dorman despite using similar levels of hybrid. So they're beginning to edge away now, which will just give Oliver a bit more confidence and settle the nerves a little bit. He might not show it, but whether your facade is incredibly calm or you can see that a driver is feeling the pressure, they're all feeling it somehow. And Oliver is just beginning to calm down now, I think, as he's realised, he's looked at his mirrors probably, he's seen the gap to Andy Dorman, and he knows he's got similar pace to Kyle. He's got a hybrid in hand. Andy Dorman's blitzing them and still not able to close in. So I think he's just going to settle down, stay in the rhythm, and I think that's going to help him out a bit. Interestingly, it's kind of stalled out a bit further back. I was expecting Jack Smith to be past Josh, no offence to Josh, but Jack seems to have some much better race pace, but he's still in a train behind Josh. One person who is struggling a bit is Nicky Taylor. Going through the long right-hander there, he seemed to be Formula Drift style on the entry there a little bit.
Yeah, I think he's got his brake bias wound quite a long way towards the rear, and that makes sense in a way. It protects left front tyre a little bit in a front-wheel drive car, but it can make it a little bit tail-happy on corner entry. You can see him just behind Joel Lask's Hyundai, sort of equidistant actually between Lask ahead and Josh Martin behind. Josh himself took a very interesting line through the first turn at the beginning of this lap, but seems to now once again be getting away slightly from Jack Smith. So as we kind of predicted, everybody very close together, but really not a huge amount of pace differential between the various cars. Good lap being put together by Dorman here, though. He was about 1.5 seconds behind Oliver Gibson last time I checked. And as you can see, that gap is only 0.75 of a second now. It's almost 3 for the lead as they come onto the pit straight in the background. Meanwhile, Jack Smith losing a place as Andy Carroll drafted straight past him through the banking.
Yeah, Andy's looking to come on strong. Obviously, he had his win in Barcelona, so still riding the confidence from that. We spoke about Elliot Dalton-Ayres not being able to make that same progress. Well, Jordan Taylor has been able to make some progress, so he might be suffering from the weight, but his race pace is coming along nicely. But yeah, Andy Dorman, whilst he is closing in, he does now have half the hybrid activations that Oliver Gibson has available to him. He's only got 5 left, whereas Oliver and Kyle have 9 and 10 respectively. So he might be closing in, but I think that gap will unfortunately be opening out when they decide to use a bit more hybrid.
Yeah, which we know will be coming in the closing stages of the race, and perhaps now Dorman's starting to watch his mirrors more than he's focusing on what's going on out in front, because Joel Lask is almost within striking range as they turn through the left-hander there at turn 10 and head towards the Hans-Ernst-Bocht, the tricky little chicane here, steeply downhill on the way in, a tight 90-degree right-hander, then basically 180-degree left. And you can see the dip that you drop through in the middle of the corner. That will help rotate the car, though, as long as you set the corner up right. And Joel Lask seemed to. He's now within half a second or so of Andy Dorman ahead. Is he going to make a move? Dorman gets off that turn really well, though. Now Lask is on the hybrid. Dorman can't really afford to use the hybrid because, as Lewis said, he's running low on them. So this could be an opportunity to overtake here for Joel Lask. He's in the slipstream. He's closing all the time off the hybrid, but still feeling the benefits from it. Is he going to lunge? Of course he's going to lunge. Up the inside goes Joel Lask. That was a textbook move, that, from Joel. A little bit of paint traded maybe on the apex, but he had the inside line, and ultimately he had the move made.
Yeah, typical Joel Lask move without the typical Joel Lask result. Normally it involves Scott being taken out, but this time Scott, I think I saw him appear in the comment section, so hi Scott, hope you are doing well. But no, Joel seems to have turned over a bit of a corner with his switch to Phoenix. He's really tried to work on his racecraft and just reining in that aggression to just make sure that he gets the move done nice and cleanly, and that's been reflected really well so far throughout the season. He's struggled a fair bit with the ballast. He says the Hyundai really doesn't like the the extra weight.
Sorry, Nicky Taylor, what a save that was.
Yeah, that was quite some save. We joke in our kind of chats that the Nicky Taylor strategy, as coined by, I don't know which one of us coined it, is to switch your brake bias to the minimum value and then eventually begin to up it if it's undrivable. So I think that may be contributing to the woes that Nicky is feeling at the moment, but that is definitely another addition to the VRRC perfectly cut screams edit from Jack.
Yeah, see, we're just here for the content now, whether we want to or not. That's the role that we're fulfilling. But yeah, great car control from Nicky Taylor. Out of the final corner we go. Look how close it is for the race lead now. Oliver Gibson's just used the hybrid, whereas Felmus I don't think did on that occasion. So that's why the gap came down, but maybe a sign that with 8 minutes to go, Gibson is now starting to up the ante a little bit as he tries to break back through into the lead that he lost a little bit earlier on. Further back, Jordan Taylor, top scorer from a week ago in the fluorescent yellow and black Hyundai, just ahead of the 888 Racing liveried car of Craig Curtis. Elliot Daltonaire's in behind. A nice three-way battle going on here for ninth position. Not really a battle that any of these drivers would like to be a part of, but they're certainly engaging in it through the uphill and downhill sweep as they go over the top of the hill, and this whole part of the circuit really very much single file, although briefly I think a bit of a timing glitch there, and Andy Dorman overtaking the whole world at the front of the field. That didn't quite pan out to be true, and he is indeed still in fourth position. But I'm intrigued to see what happens now in this final third of the race, Lewis, because this is where tyre management now starts to come into things. Josh Martin certainly looks as though he's finding some extra pace as we head towards the closing stages. And so too, really, in a way, is Elliot Daltonaire's right on the tail of Craig Curtis now as they battle for 10.
Yeah, and the good news for Elliot is if he can make work of the cars in front, they are generally in a train, and if he passes these two in front of him, then he's only one place behind Jack Smith. So in terms of losing out to Jack, it wouldn't be too much of a disadvantage, and he would be starting higher up in the reverse grid race, which does give drivers with less raw pace a good opportunity to try and make the moves to hold those quicker drivers behind for a bit longer, so it gives him a bit of a chance. But he's going for it on Craig Curtis now, round the outside. Can he make it stick on the brakes? Ooh, it's going to be close. Craig manages to keep it on the apex, and he's going to run him right to the edge, but nothing more. Left him just about enough space there. Side by side through here, which line is going to win out? Is Craig going to send it up high on the banking? Is Elliot going to make the underline work? Not quite. I think Craig's going to have the momentum, but Elliot's on the hybrid. This isn't going to be over just yet.
No, not at all. Downhill they go. Difficult place to make an overtake, but Daltonaire's has the advantage with the hybrid. There's just nowhere to go with it, though, and he's got to be careful. Into Chivlat they go. There's no way through there, and so Elliot Daltonaire's stuck in behind Craig Curtis. And really, in a way, that was a wasted hybrid. He wasn't to know that when he jumped on the button, but wasn't able to make the move when he was well within striking range. But difficult place to get alongside, even if you've got a straight line speed edge. So the Vauxhall stays in front and stays in 10th place. Elliot Daltonaire starting now to get more and more frustrated, I think. Out of the left-hand hairpin they go. For a second, maybe he'd go on the hybrid again, climbing uphill, but it's not really a long enough straight to make that work. He's going to have to settle back behind the Vauxhall for now. At the head of the field, by the way, we're heading into the final 5 minutes, and that gap at the front, bigger than it has been so far. Carl Felver's now starting to use some of his hybrids again, and he's over a second clear of Oliver Gibson for the first time in this race. Gibson himself, though, 1.4 seconds clear of Joel Laskin third, Andy Dorman is fourth, Nicky Taylor fifth, and Josh Martin in sixth place. That perhaps is the group, Lewis, where we might see some action.
I think so. They're all in a bit of a train, very close together. I think we might see a move from Elliot here, potentially. No, Craig's defended it. I saw the gap going down on the relative, and I was thinking maybe he might shape for a move, but not quite this time. As Rich and Paul Laramie are going at it now. Rich going for the ultra-wide line around turn 1. He's not quite managed to make it stick, but he's got another opportunity at turn 3 approaching us in a second. Is he going to go down the inside? Let's see what he can do.
Oh, climbs the curb on the inside line, but then doesn't get the traction off the corner that he would have liked, and so Paul Laramie stays in front. Down the hill they will go, and may only be a battle over 14th place, but they're going for it as if it was for the race lead, which of course it could well be in the early stages of race 2. These two drivers both likely to be starting near the front of the field. Towards the front of the field in this one, though, we have this fight for 4th place. Andy Dorman now starting to struggle a little bit, and Nicky Taylor and Josh Martin clambering all over his rear bumper. Out of the hairpin they come, and is Nicky Taylor about to try and make a move? Well, Josh Martin is. He's on the hybrid as they head towards the chicane. Surely a bit too far back to make a move here on Taylor, who defends the middle ground. So Martin goes a long way round. What a move that would be if it works. He's sideways, he's in the gravel, but he's still got the inside line. That is absolutely outrageous from Josh Martin. I don't think it's quite going to work. He's on the outside line into the penultimate turn, but 10 out of 10 for effort and inventiveness. Nicky Taylor stays ahead, but that was a really good effort.
Yeah, I think Josh was channeling Dave's rallying skills by the looks of it to try and keep it on the road and a little bit out of the gravel there. As in the background, Elliot's
not again.
Not again, surely not. Let's see what he can do. No, I think Nicky's just gonna slam the door shut, but it's actually Elliot who's lost a place to Fabrizio Torri further in the background. Is Josh Here we go. Let's see how the lines work out this time. No, Nicky carried really good momentum round the outside there, and this is going to open the door for Andy Carroll, but Josh is on the hybrid, so I think he's going to be able to stick with it for now, but it's a difficult balancing act now. Josh needs to clear Nicky, otherwise Andy might be looking to try and make a move on him.
And we saw again there how going for a move on a couple of occasions nearly cost Josh Martin a place in the end, so he's got to be careful now. The next time he tries to pass Nicky Taylor, really needs to try and make sure that he makes it stick, but that was one of the most ambitious overtaking attempts I think I've ever seen. This is a bit more of a textbook place to try and make a move. He's on the inside line through the left-hand hairpin, and with just under 2 minutes of the race to go, Josh Martin is definitely on the attack. Nicky Taylor having to basically drive around the inside of the track. Look, couldn't be any closer to the inside line. Is Martin going to go for it round the outside again? No, Nicky Taylor wise to it this time, carries a bit more speed into the corner, knowing that you can really compromise your run into the left hand because the banking very much catches you and helps you to rotate the car. So Taylor stays 5th, Martin 6th, Carroll 7th, and now Jack Smith part of this battle in 8th place too.
Yeah, he's getting interested now, but Nicky Taylor's out of hybrid and Josh is on it now, so I think he's going to be a bit of a sitting duck down the straight, so all of this great defending might be to no avail by the time we get to turn 1. Not quite. As a little bit of contact on the way in. Well, I think he's bit of a hip and shoulder from Nicky on the exit there, but still side by side. Surely not around the outside of there. No, Josh thinks better of it.
Blimey, and he really wanted the outside line there, didn't he? Chopped across in front of Andy Carroll, but that is why he wants the exit speed, and he wants to then try and make the move down the hill. He's got so much more momentum than Taylor, and he does find a gap. There's a little bit of a hip check through. Surely goes Josh Martin. Yes! Manages to clear the Honda. That was a brilliant bit of racecraft, and Jack Smith through on the inside of Andy Carroll as well. So both of the BMWs in this group making ground on the run out of that hairpin. That is that extra traction that you get. And Josh Martin learnt there, didn't he, Lewis, from going in tight into turn number 4 a lap ago. He knew that time he had to take the wide line to A, cover off Andy Carroll, but B, and perhaps more importantly, make that move stick on Taylor.
Yeah, that's a great example of a racing driver trying to figure out what lines are good and what are not, and how to benefit from another driver's weaknesses. And Jack Smith with an absolutely textbook move. He's going for it. He's done it. Wow, move of the race from Jack Smith right there. As we are going to be on the final lap, we'll come back to Fabrizio Torri has gone off in the background there. Didn't see what happened, but Kyle has just managed to control it ever since he got past.
Wow, what a drive from Carl Felvers. A fantastic victory for the youngster. Oliver Gibson will be satisfied with second, but I'm sure would have liked to have claimed the victory further back. It's an absolute land rush to the line. Josh Martin just hangs on to 5th place. Jack Smith 6th, and Andy Carroll 7th place with Nicky Taylor. Nicky Taylor 7th, Andy Carroll 8th, and then Jordan Taylor next in line. Fabrizio Torri there got the better of Chris Blakey, so managed to get back ahead of the Toyota driver in the closing stages. And Rich Hayden managed to get ahead of Paul Laramie by the flag, but some really fantastic racing there towards the front of the field. And Jack Smith showing that you can make that round the outside move work into the Hans Ernst Bock chicane. And, well, that was a terrific move made by him. Kenny Press, the last car home, and he will therefore be starting from pole position for race 2 because John Jones was a non-finisher. Right then, we will have all of the reaction to that first race from our podium finishers in just a few minutes. Welcome back to the VRRC, where we've just enjoyed our opening race of the evening here from Zandvoort. Fantastic opening race it was. Lots of action up and down the order, but ultimately a well-deserved victory goes the way of one Kyle Felvers. Kyle, who's had a bit of an up and down season, must be said so far, 9th place only in the championship, but Kyle a winner once more, and we join him now. Well done on the victory, Kyle. Were you surprised in the end at how easy it was to get the leader, and more to the point, how well you were able to pull away in the closing stages?
Yeah, I think I used a push to pass in a place where no one really thinks to use a push to pass. I guess it's quite a sketchy section going up that little hill. So I used push pass there. I wanted to try and get past and then see how much pace I could use. And I did have quite good race pace. I was really shocked with my race pace, to be fair. And I know Ollie was having some wheel troubles at the end of the race, so that helped in my favour, but obviously disappointing for him.
That's interesting. We weren't aware of that. I'm sure we'll hear about that in a moment or two. But regardless of that, a well-needed victory, that really, I think, for your confidence levels. You've not been slow this season, just not been very lucky, have you?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's just been really quick. You obviously saw in qualifying, I think it was the top 10 were within 2.5 tenths of each other. So this season has just been, everyone's so close together. It's so difficult. It's just really difficult to get past people because everyone's so quick.
Well, and that doesn't really make your job any easier for race 2, because now you're coming from the very back of the field. We saw in that race some good side-by-side racing, but it is narrow. It is difficult to manage that momentum and those runs that you get through some of the fast parts of the circuit. Are you expecting a bit of carnage here? And if so, how are you going to make sure you're not part of it?
I think I'm expecting a bit like it was at Catalonia. Obviously, I missed Red Bull Ring, but second race at Catalonia, it was just, you couldn't make any moves. Everyone was sort of just in a little pack, and it wasn't really moving forward. It was really fair, and I think that's what it's going to be like here, being such a tight circuit. And the banking doesn't really help, to be honest, because everyone has their own different line, so it makes it much more challenging.
Certainly does. Well, you certainly mastered that challenge in race 1, Carl. Congratulations on the race victory. Best of luck for race 2.
Thanks, Andy.
Carl Felvers then victorious in our opening race of the night, but as we heard, he had a good early battle there with our second place finisher, Oliver Gibson, who catches up now with Lewis.
Yeah, Oliver, P2 for you. I know you might have been hoping for the win, but surely that's a good result for your championship challenge.
Yeah, I mean, a win would have been good, but I think Kyle was just on another league today. I mean, yeah, he had some right pace, and from the beginning I was like, no way am I going to keep him behind. He used that push to pass in, I think he said, in a place where no one else would, and he was right, and flew past, and then just, I don't know, just shot off, and I was like, never mind then. So, I'm happy with second. It's good points, just, not really what I wanted.
Was there anything you were specifically struggling with pace-wise in this race that Kyle maybe wasn't as much?
I think just everywhere he was a lot quicker, and tyre wear I think really played a factor for me. I don't know what happened. It might have just been me, but I just started sliding, somehow understeering a little bit. I don't know where that came from, but yeah, I think it was just better in all stages, to be honest, in that last race. It was, tricky to beat.
Do you think you can adjust your kind of style of driving to manage the tyre better in race 2? Or is it just the tyres go away from you no matter how hard or how little you push them?
I think it's a really tyre-heavy track, obviously, with the fast corners and the bankings and all of that. But, I mean, there probably is some way I could, manage the tyres better and get some pace towards the end, but that's out of my skill. So yeah, I've no idea how to do that. But I mean, race 2 is something's bound to happen. Yeah, just try and save the tyres as best as I can. Don't know how, but yeah, race 1. Don't know what happened to those tyres.
Well, hopefully you can somehow sort them out for race 2, and we hope to be speaking to you at the end of the second race.
Yeah, thank you.
Good stuff. Thank you, Oliver. Great to hear from him again. Not quite the win from pole position, but second place is still some good points. Now, third position, one of the raciest drivers on the grid, when isn't he really, was Joel Lask. Joel, first of all, well done on getting onto the podium. Secondly, brilliant move to get onto the podium there. Talk us through that pass that you made on Andy.
Yeah, that was a bit of a tough one, because like the guys were saying, it's a bit of a procession around here. But it was one of those, do or die moves. Just I know I've been good on the brakes around here, so just made it stick, luckily. But yeah, maybe if I tried that again, it might not happen the same way. So I think I got lucky with that one.
You've got to be committed, though, haven't you, to make a move around here, especially when everyone's so evenly matched. You won't ever really have an easy overtake. So when you get that opportunity, you've got to be prepared to go for it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Obviously, like the guy was saying, tyre wear is a big factor. I probably used a bit too much of the tyre at the start of the race, which sort of left me a bit vulnerable towards the end. I just couldn't quite catch the front two. Good race pace though, so we'll see what we can do in the second one. We've just got to manage the tyres a little bit more.
And that's not going to be easy to do given how much battling you'll have to do in this second race. Do you agree with what we heard from Kyle earlier on, though, that the quick drivers at the back of the grid might have a difficult time making forward progress in this one?
Yeah, I'd say so, because there's only really one spot you can use the hybrid, and that's down the straight. I mean, if you want to try your chances, you can do it through like the S's. There's like third, fourth corner, but I mean, to be honest, I think it'll be pretty much processionary unless there's a bit of carnage, but we'll bide our time, see if we can take a few moves at the same time and work out the grid.
Well, we did see a few people using the hybrid through those high-speed S's, actually, and on the run towards the tight chicane at the end of the lap. So might have to get inventive in this one, Joel, to make some more good overtakes, but we wish you the very best of luck with it.
Nice one. Cheers, mate.
So Joel Lask on the podium then for Phoenix Sim Racing in our opening race of the night. Race 2 coming your way in just a couple of minutes here at the VRRC. And a reminder that if you're interested in getting involved with racing at the VRRC, Lewis, we would love to have you. And there are plenty of ways that you can become a member with this fantastic club.
Absolutely, yeah. All of the drivers that you see on the broadcasted action are members. They don't have to be. They can choose to just pay the normal fees, but with membership you get a load of extra benefits, and all of the drivers you see have chosen to go for those benefits. So membership can give you access to unlimited time attack to win the actual prizes. Fun races are free for everybody. You get some nice technical support, mainly from myself, Rich, or Andy Carroll, who is a tech wizard, the resident tech wizard. Definitely not me. And then, of course, you've got the live timing for the events. You get discounted entry fees and discounted coaching. You're part of our driver ranking system, and there are some Discord channels for the various members to have a good chat in. So yeah, plenty of ways you can get involved, and you also get you get free liveries. So quite a few of the cars that you see on track, including your favourite livery on Craig Curtis's car. That was a benefit of him being a member. So no better reason to sign up than that.
No, absolutely. We all benefit from that because the cars really are immaculately presented. And yet, I am a fan of the Vauxhall. I'm not going to lie. Right then, our second race of the night about to get underway. Full reversed grid, certainly amongst those who finished the early race. I think John Jones was the only non-finisher. He doesn't appear to be taking the start of race 2, so it is Kenny Press in the Toyota on pole. Alongside him then we have got Nelson Abrinosa, and then row 2 for Alok Iyengar and Paul Laramie. Red lights go on then, ready to get our second race of the evening underway here from Zandvoort. Off they go! And a good start made by Kenny Press, actually. Look at Iyengar, though. Rear-wheel drive BMW. You can see the other Pumas already making progress from further back, but Alok is going for the race lead. He's on the inside line into turn number 1, Tarzan, and he is going to sweep through into first place. Abrinhosa goes through into second as well. I think all cleanly through turn 1, but they're going 2 and 3 wide down towards turn number 2. That's got disaster written all over it. Jack Smith was in the middle of all of that. Craig Curtis sweeping up the inside of him. That becomes the outside for the hairpin where they're 4 wide briefly. Josh Martin involved in that battle. He's still now trying to find a way past Nicky Taylor, as he was for much of the earlier race. They're all trying to chop and change lines down through the high-speed S's, and somehow they're still there. No, there's contact sideways, and a big crash. That's Abrinosa. Off goes Rich Hayden.
Jack Smith.
An absolute drama. That's Jack Smith off the road as well. Elliot Dalton Ayres has had damage too. That was sort of inevitable. Joel Last there banging doors with one of the other Hyundais as well. That was big drama, and that has really mixed the pack up, Lewis.
Poof, just need to take a breath after all of that. I think by the looks of it, we've got a safety car because they're going very slowly. So, yeah, absolute chaos there. Notably, Jack Smith just had nowhere to go there. No. So he was the highest of the kind of the championship protagonists in the order before that crash happened, I think. And now he's down to 14th, so he's got his work cut out. Kyle has managed to get his way up to 8th place, Nicky in 7th, Josh Martin up to 5th, so he does like the reverse grid races this season. I wonder if he's going to like them a bit more today.
Well, yeah, that was certainly a good first lap for him. The car that got airborne, I think, was Abrinosa. He's out of the race, unsurprisingly. Rich Hayden delayed, Jordan Taylor was tagged in that, Jack Smith and Elliot Dalton Ayres all having an involvement in that incident, but the virtual safety car is ending, and we're about to go racing again. Alok Iyengar has got already a dream initial start to the race, but an even better safety car restart. And look in the background, Paul Laramie's on the hybrid, and he's up the inside of Kenny Press as they head towards turn number 1, so side by side for second place. Laramie on the inside line, I think is going to go through, is he? Kenny's trying to sort of tough it out around the outside line. Chris Blakey goes wide, and Josh Martin is potentially in the pound seat here. He's into 4th place now already, and really none of the front runners from the earlier race, apart from Josh, are making this progress. Oh, blimey, oh no, he's around! He's around! Josh Martin into the side of Kenny Press. What did I have to go and say that for?
Oh dear, commentator's curse strikes again as they're going for round 2. Hold on a minute.
No. Oh, this is going to be drama. Craig Curtis in the middle there. They've sorted it out this time around. I think Carl Felvis now into the back of Craig Curtis. This is certainly an elbows out race so far, isn't it, Lewis?
Yeah, they're really going for it. I think they understand the importance of making the moves early on in the race to try and get that track position quickly, because we've seen it's pretty difficult to overtake. So I think everyone's trying to be a bit bold with the overtakes and a bit bold with the defence, and with everybody so close, it's kind of just got disaster written all over it, even though we're choosing to put faith in our drivers to hopefully keep it out of trouble.
Well, good little bit of racing there between Carl Felvis and Craig Curtis. Felvis made the move, and Curtis got straight back at him down the next straight. Now, what's going on with Oliver Gibson? He's really struggling, because I don't think he sustained any major damage out of that lap 1 incident, but he's dropping down the order now. Elliot Dalton Ayres has gone past him, and suddenly his DK Power Racing BMW teammate, Jack Smith, is right behind him. So the man who finished runner-up in race 1, seemingly struggling in race 2. The 2 Toyotas now going side by side down the pit straight, and that is Kenny Press losing out to Chris Blakey. So Chris Blakey up into a podium position. Craig Curtis in the background is defending once again from Carl Felvis. Blakey sideways at turn 1. A little bit too much rear brake bias there as well, I think, and he's back down to 4th.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of contact there, so we're really commentator cursing a few people. Don't feel bad. I did it in really badly in Red Bull Ring. We cut to 3 consecutive people having accidents. So, yeah, it seems like we picked the wrong car at the wrong time. They're beginning to sort themselves out a bit more now as Kyle's going for 5th. Well, Yeah, it's Joel and Nicky, so elbows well and truly out there. But Paul Laramie, again, similar to his race 2 in Red Bull Ring, he managed to get up to that second place, and he said he made a couple of mistakes which led to a couple of incidents which weren't actually his fault, but he thinks he could have done better to pull away, to not be in a position where a car decided to lunge him and got it wrong. Oh, Nicky chopped across the nose there. I saw him coming across the nose of Joel there, thinking that was brave of him to do so, but they've done very well to avoid contact there. Really respectful battle between these two. Now Andy Dorman's looking interested.
Oh, and Andy Carroll's out braking himself, so that bottles them all back together again. This is good racing, good entertainment, but not easy to. That's Iyengar. That's Iyengar off the road from within. Well, he was in the lead, wasn't he? So the race leader's gone around, coming out of the Hans Ernst box, and that puts Laramie to the front now. Around the outside goes Carl Felvers. He's click and he press, and what on earth is Craig Curtis doing? No! Around into Andy Carroll, who is absolutely shoveled into the wall, and I think that Craig Curtis was just caught out by the closing rate as he caught up to Kenny Press and Carl Felvers ahead. He tried to dodge out of the way, lost control of the rear of the car, and poor Andy Carroll, absolutely the innocent victim.
Yeah, I think what happened there was Kenny moved one way a bit too late, which left Craig with absolutely nowhere to go because Kenny wasn't on the hybrid. That's why we saw cars sailing past him. So, yeah, I think just an unfortunate one there. I think Kenny's accidentally swerved a bit too late the wrong way to defend, and then Craig just couldn't get out of it enough. Very nearly saved it though, but unfortunately that's the end of the race for Craig and Andy. I would imagine their engines are probably gone from that one, so really unfortunate for those two. And so Josh was getting a bit squirrely there, looking for the move on Jack. Please don't take out the championship leader, Josh, that would not be good. But please, by all means, overtake him so we get an interesting championship fight. But it looks like Kenny's remembered where the hybrid button is now, and he's using it to defend from Nicky and Joel, who are closing in now.
In other news, Rich Hayden has just set the fastest lap of the race. He's a long way back after his involvement in that accident, but presumably on fresh tyres, is now starting to go very quickly indeed. This looks rather tasty, doesn't it? This is Kenny Press in 4th, and a group of cars stretching all the way back to Josh Martin in 11th is queuing up behind him, but he does now rather pull out of the way, really. Nicky Taylor goes through, Joel Lask going with him, both of them on the hybrid. Here comes Elliot Dalton there to the inside. Josh Martin has gone past Jack Smith in the background and nearly put him in the wall, I think, coming through the final turn. Here comes Lask up the inside of Nicky Taylor, last of the late breakers, and Joel goes through, and, Nicky Taylor about to get ganged up on here, I think, by the Phoenix Sim Racing pair. He's the meat in the sandwich now. Lask in front of him, Dalton Ayres behind him, but that looked like a really good move by Lask.
Yeah, Joel, again, sending a really good move to the inside. Oh, no, Kenny's dropping down. He's off. He's off. Maybe a hardware issue there. As Chris Blakey closing in for the lead now. With that incident or whatever happened to Alok Iyengar, which we didn't see fully, it's meant that these two have inherited the race lead, well, the battle for the race lead, and Chris is closing in now on Paul, but they can't afford to scrap too much because Kyle's already arrived on the scene. I was about to say, if they're not careful, he'll close in, but before they've even started a battle, he's on the bumper of Chris Blakey looking for a move. Could we see a double race victory here from Kyle?
It's very, very rare, that, isn't it? We don't see it very often these days, but certainly this is a good opportunity for Carl to get it. He's right on the tail of the top two. He just has to be careful. They have nothing to lose. He has potentially quite a lot to lose, actually, because this is going to be a good points haul from him tonight. This could just keep his championship hopes alive with 2 weeks of racing to go. They're all on the hybrid as they come out in the final turn, so no real massive game, but he does have Kyle, a double slipstream from the two cars ahead. He is closing in as they head towards Tarzan, but I think Blakey is the man who's going to make a move here. Surely he's going to think about it to the inside of Paul Laramie. Does more than think about it. Sails through on the inside and sails straight on. Laramie back to the lead, and Carl Felvers will pick his pocket as well. So Felvers up into second place. Good opportunistic racing. This has been a masterclass in reversed grid racing here from Carl Felvers. He's into second place, and there really is a sense of inevitability about this, isn't there?
Potentially so, but Paul Laramie's been very good at defending. He managed it quite nicely in the Red Bull ring. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough one, but he's closing in already. So I think it's going to be a tricky one for Paul to defend, but if he doesn't lose too much time, he's definitely a podium on the cards for Paul.
Oh, no! Sorry, Lewis, that was, I don't know what happened there. Chris Blakey and Joel Last getting into each other in the background. Blakey all over the grass. Sorry to cut across you there, but that was a strange place to make contact. They're side by side for the lead as well. Paul Laramie and Carl Felvis absolutely neck and neck. Felvis going right round the outside. This will be a tremendous move if he can pull it off. He should have the momentum on the exit of the corner. Laramie, really good racecraft there. Left him the space. He's on the hybrid, but it's not going to matter. Kyle Felvis leads the way. Laramie tries to come back in though at the inside into the chicane. Late on the brakes. Laramie back to the front. Does he make the corner of a function? He's still got an overlap on Felvis. They almost rub as they come off the corner. A bit of lag kicking in. That didn't help matters. Felvis goes to the lead then, but look who is joining the party now. Joel Last got the inside for second place into the penultimate corner, and suddenly leans on Laramie slightly, but suddenly Carl Felvis has a race on his hands again because Joel Last took a huge amount of time out of him there.
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't other people battling to let Kyle in on the fight. It was Kyle battling with Paul Laramie that's let Joel Lask have a shot at the win. But we have to remember the raw pace that Kyle had in race 1. Is Joel going to be able to overcome that to somehow get the win? It depends potentially on what level of contact they've had to get to this point. How much have they been compromised with damage? What kind of state are their tyres in? How much have they pushed? And then what can they do at the moment? Well, Elliott's looking at trying to make his way up to P4, but he's got Andy Dorman all over him. Oh, this has got danger written all over it.
Blimey, right over the grass goes Tolton Ayres. Dorman, I think, made that work, but Elliott's coming back at him into Shevlak. No, he can't do it. So, wow, Andy Dorman really full force overtaking there. It was clean. He saw the gap. He went for it and fully committed to the move. So through he will go then. That puts Dorman into the top 5. And right on the tail now, Paul Laramie, who's got the train of cars falling behind him. That is Nicky Taylor up into 3rd place as well. By the way, he got past Laramie earlier on, and now Dalton Ayres back up the inside of Andy Dorman. Leads on the Ford driver, slightly coming off the turn, and here comes Oliver Gibson to make it 3 wide. This is a risky place for Gibson to go. Josh Martin's a part of this group as well, and sitting back sensibly, I think, is Jack Smith, just waiting to see how this all pans out. Dorman goes past Laramie. There's contact with Dalton Ayres, though. They're both into the barriers, and that is exactly why I thought Jack Smith was in the right position. He hung back from that. He could see that contact could well happen, and as a result, he gains 2 places.
Yeah, just textbook champion of the past, just knowing where to place his car to try and minimise the risk, and he's now making his way up into 6th place. So he's done a really good job, given he was pretty much about 2nd or 3rd last of the cars still functioning and able to drive on that safety car restart. So a really good job from Jack so far, but it's not over yet. He's just about managed to pass Josh Martin. There could be a couple more positions for Jack and Oliver, potentially with Andy Dorman and Nicky Taylor, depending on what sort of pace they've got left in the locker. But it looks like Joel is actually beginning to close in on Kyle now, so we might have a race for the lead after all.
Yeah, using the hybrid, that helped, but certainly he is looking strong, isn't he? It's amazing what running behind another quick driver can do for you. I've always found that brought the best out in me in my sim racing that I've done in the past. Following someone a little bit quicker than me, you can sometimes pick up a few little tips and tricks, and maybe that's what's happening here with Joel Lask. He's staying within half a second or so of the race leader, and they're both gapping Nicky Taylor, who we know has not been short on pace tonight, albeit he's had a car at times that has looked a little ill handling. So 6.5 minutes to go, still about a third of this reverse grid race to go. And Carl Felvis is going to have to keep one eye on that rearview mirror, because Joel Lask, we know, Lewis, if he sees a chink of an opening, he's going to commit to it.
Even when there isn't an opening, he commits to it anyway sometimes. So yes, when Joel is on your rear bumper, you always have to be alert and ready for a potential manoeuvre. But they're beginning to run out of hybrid at the moment, and someone who isn't is Oliver Gibson. He's on the hybrid at the moment, but he's got 7 activations still to go. So I think there's still definitely a potential P3 on here for Oliver if he can clear the cars nicely. He has done a 40.8 on the last lap, which is very quicker than most have managed. I think it's only the 2 leaders that are anywhere in the realm of that. The live timing is lagging a bit, bit, so can't get you the exact lap times at the moment, but it looks like Andy Dorman is blitzing the hybrid to try and get past Nicky Taylor, and he's closed right onto the back of him now.
Yeah, Dorman's really caught Taylor, hasn't he, actually, over the last lap or so. Closes in as they come over the hill. Next car behind is Oliver Gibson. He's getting away from Jack Smith, who can't really shake off Josh Martin, which does tell me that maybe Jack's carrying a little bit of damage to the front of his car after that collision at that part of the circuit on lap 1. But Andy Dorman looking now to try and break into the podium places. Is this maybe where he makes the move, gets the power down, doesn't even think about the inside line into the left-hander though. Stays in behind and looks instead to try and get the good exit towards the Hans Ernst box chicane. He has had a good exit, doesn't go for the hybrid interestingly, but he's still going to try and peek to the inside line. Does he commit? Oh, I thought he was going to, but ultimately just a bit too far back on that occasion.
Yeah, just sort of half looked to see if Nicky would leave him the space, I think, there. Not sure he's quite close enough to make an actual move, just wanted to kind of fill the rear view mirrors a bit to see if he could put off Nicky, but Nicky is very rarely one for getting put off by other people trying to make a move. He's normally sticking to his line very robustly unless he knows you're going to be up the inside, so that real world experience up in there. Elliot Zoltanez has, I'm guessing, a drive-through. Or is coming for a pit stop. That's DNF.
Oh, wow. Okay, what's that about? Elliot Daltonaire out of the race. He had damage, I'm sure, from earlier on, but Elliot doesn't seem like the quitting kind, so I'm very surprised that he's decided to come in, unless he realised he wasn't going to have enough fuel, maybe, but even just finishing the race would have netted him some points, because we've had so many other non-finishers, so that's a truly bizarre one. I'm really not sure what that was all about. Meanwhile, Josh Martin's on the hybrid, and he's trying to go around the outside again, this time on the points leader, and he makes it work. I have to say, Josh Martin's been the most exciting driver tonight, hasn't he? Making some really, really remarkable moves, and that one really stuck as well around the outside of Jack Smith. He's into 6th position again now. Both of these drivers have had their dramas in this race, it must be said, but through the high attrition rate, they're at least battling over some semi-decent points.
Yeah, I think the Josh and the 2 DK Power Racing BMWs have all provided some absolutely sensational racing all throughout the weekend's worth of racing. So really good to see what they can do as Jack's trying to top that move by going around the outside. No, Josh saw that one coming. He's got the experience from trying to pull it off himself, so he knows how to defend from his own kind of manoeuvre. So no opening for Jack there. I think he might just sit in the slipstream for a bit now, try and figure out where Josh is strong and where he's weak and try and make a move, as Oliver's going to be past Andy Dorman here surely with the hybrid. Yeah, Andy's not defending this one too much.
Nope, Gibson on the inside line. 4th place now then for Oliver, and looks as though he's going to cap off a really strong night with maybe not a double podium, but a 2nd and a 4th place finish would be some decent points. Only a few places though clear, crucially, of Jack Smith, so that is not a massive points gain on the championship leader. Will Jack be happy, do you think, with his night? Obviously he's not happy truly unless he's up on the podium and winning races, but on a night where he's not had the pace, he's been involved in a couple of incidents as well, a couple of sort of mid-top 10 results, at least it's banking some points, and well, I don't think this will end up counting as another one of his drop scores, so he's taken something positive out of the night at least.
Yeah, I think if he gets past Josh and Andy and ends up in 5th place, only 1 place behind Oliver, I think he'd probably be quite happy with that. So yeah, I think he needs to make a little bit more progress to be truly satisfied with a damage limitation race, but given that his closest rival is in the pits DNF'd, and Nicky's not had his strongest weekend. Oh, Josh is going around the outside, surely not.
Oh, not again. It might. No, there's contact with Dorman, and in the end, Andy stays ahead. He does like that move. You can see how it can work, though, can't you? Because the right-hand element of the chicane is only half as long as the left-hand element, which is through a full 180 degrees. So if you go around the outside through the right, it does at least give you the inside line for the left then, but you have got to be very, very brave to make it stick. Down the pit straight they go then, up ahead Oliver Gibson. Well, maybe he will get a double podium, Lewis, because with 1 lap to go, he has caught Nicky Taylor pretty rapidly. That's a big pace advantage that he's got at this stage of the race, but we know that Nicky is not going to roll over and give it away easily.
Yeah, it was a full 1.3 seconds quicker than Nicky Taylor on the last lap. He did use 1 or 2 more hybrid activations, but he's still got 1 more than Nicky to use. So I wonder where he's going to plan to use them. It might be a run to the line type thing, as Josh Martin is right on the back of Andy Dorman in the background, surely not launching it there. Oh no!
Oh, not again, Josh! Oh, and right in front of Jack Smith, who may have tagged him slightly on the way around. That was a really close call for Jack Smith. It's the second time this race that he's been involved in that kind of contact, Josh Martin, and ended up coming off worse. That's the danger of being in a rear-wheel drive car. So, well, Josh Martin again loses a place, loses some valuable points, and it's those mistakes that really can prove costly. Now, here comes Oliver Gibson on the hybrid, down into the Hans Ernst box. He's going to try and go around the outside. This is the Josh Martin line. He might just make it stick. No, Nicky Taylor closes the door, a little bit of wheel banging, and the Honda driver stays out in front. We're approaching the checkered flag, and it is going to be a very rare, here at the VRRC, double race victory for Kyle Felvers. Kyle Felvers out of the final corner, heads for the timing line, and he will win both races tonight here at Zandvoort. A truly professional performance, that from Kyle Felvers. What a pair of races. Really fought hard in race 1 against Oliver Gibson to get the lead, which he held to the line, and in this one coming from the back of the grid, dodging the chaos and the carnage to claim another race victory. There's still a bit more of that chaos and carnage unfolding behind, because that's Alok Iyengar going around out of the final corner. Paul Laramie here, after running so strongly earlier on, also well down the order, but it's Felvers the winner, Joel Lask in second place, and Nicky Taylor just by 0.3 of a second fends off Oliver Gibson for another podium finish. So a lot to talk about after that race, it has to be said. We'll be doing that on the other side of this quick break, when we'll also catch up with our podium finishers. Welcome back, everyone, to Zandvoort, where we've just had a bruising second race of the night. Quite a few non-finishers, but some really, really good drives from our podium finishers to navigate the drama and score some really good points, particularly for our race winner, because it is a second win of the night for Kyle Felvers, who joins us once again in the commentary box. And Kyle, winning one race is hard enough these days, given how competitive this championship is. To do 2 in the same night is virtually unheard of, especially in a circuit like this, where easing your way through all of that trouble was always going to be a real challenge. What was your perspective of everything that unfolded then?
I mean, turn 1, I was sort of just trying to keep it chill, staying behind, seeing what was going to unfold, because, you know, it's always going to be carnage, especially with these bankings and everything. But going after the banking, heading up the hill, I think someone got a nudge, and then I saw a car in the air, and so I lifted off. I think I made slight contact with Andy Carroll because I was trying to tuck in. We both got through though, and then I managed to be in about 6th position after the incident, and I didn't really know what was going on. And then I think lap 2, Josh spun, and I just had to work my way through everyone else.
And it's very easy after a race like that to say, yeah, well, you got lucky, cars were crashing and people spinning and whatever, but you've got to put your car in a position where it's not getting caught up in that stuff. And yes, some of it's just a 50-50 choice, but it is that experience in that sort of racecraft through these reverse grid races that prepares you best for that.
Yeah, I think like people coming into the championship that are new, they sort of haven't experienced that yet. Like I've been doing VRC for 2 years now, so I've had that experience, and I know how reverse grids work, and you sort of know where incidents are going to happen and how they're going to happen, so you can slightly predict it. But the car flying in the air, I couldn't have predicted that one.
That was proper NASCAR stuff, that wasn't it? We were talking about banking earlier on. That was a very spectacular accident. Some spectacular driving from you tonight there as well. What was it, do you think, that really clicked really clicked into place tonight for you?
I think the track, it's such a technical circuit, and technical circuits are like my favorite. They're perfect for me. When you have to find one line and one line only and get it completely right to get a quick lap time, I think that's what I enjoy. So I think the circuit definitely helped this evening, and I think that's why I had all my pace.
Lots of pace, really good racecraft as well from you, Carl. And for that reason, you are our driver of the round for tonight. We couldn't not give it to you, really, after 2 race victories. So huge congratulations on that. A real masterclass performance. Well done.
Thanks, Andy.
So Carl Felvis then walking away with all the silverware tonight, and that will certainly help him to move on up the championship standings a little bit as well. We'll get to that in a moment or two. Before that, though, we need to speak to our other 2 podium finishers, and our second place finisher right now is lining up to have a chat with Lewis.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it was a bit of a gutting one, really, because about halfway through the race, I think Chris lagged a little bit and then ended up inside my car, which gave me quite a bit of damage, suspension and front and rear on the aero. So that was a bit of a tough gig. Definitely had the race pace though, and yeah, compared to the fact that earlier on today I just wasn't on the pace whatsoever, it was nice to get those points. No, not really. I mean, I'm just driving it slightly different, but yeah, it's still a handful, as always. Yeah. Oh, yeah, as always. No, on the show, I'm sure.
Better not do.
Excellent stirring of the pot there, Lewis, by the way. Good stuff. We look forward to that, Joel. Best of luck for next week. Then, Nikki, third place for you. Yeah, some interesting battling for you as well there. You seem to have some good speed mid-race, made some good progress, but then did look a bit like you were hanging on in the closing stages. Is that fair?
Yeah, I don't really know what happened tonight, to be fair. It's not normally, as you can probably hear by the sound of my voice, I'm not really sure what happened. I went from being absolutely rapid in qualifying with like nearly getting pole to then having a car that wanted to just not turn at all in both races. So I tried to change it for race 2, and that made it worse. So that was always fun. But yeah, I think I just got where I got tonight by other people's misfortune.
Well, you need a bit of good fortune, like we were saying to Carl a bit earlier on. But we saw you struggling in that first race to get the car. Well, you weren't struggling to get it turned in because you were sideways on a few occasions, but we know that wasn't how you were planning on entering the corners. Were you playing around with the brake bias a bit there to try and just dial out some of that understeer?
No, I mean, my brake bias was set the whole night at 50 because it's the most rearward it would go, but I thought I needed it for the car to turn, and it worked in qualifying. It worked for laps, but yeah, just got a bit on the curb coming out of like the corner after the really long right, and then yeah, just got hooked and couldn't stop it. But yeah, just a tricky one because I don't quite know where my pace went, and I don't quite understand how I went to being slower. But yeah, I'll look into it, and should be back at the fighting point at Donington.
I'm sure you will be, Nicky. We know that's a track that you enjoyed. You were one of the higher point scorers from tonight as well. So certainly not all doom and gloom. A solid night for you. And I'm sure you're looking forward to getting to Donington Park, a place that we have seen you go well at in the past.
No, God, no. I dislike Donington with a passion. It is one of my least favourite tracks in the UK, if not my least favourite. But yeah, I'll try and get through it. But yeah, coming to Hockenheim. Hockenheim is a me circuit, and I should be fast there. I was fast there last time, so we'll get there. But yeah, a lot of practice for Donington is needed, and just pushing through and getting consistent results. And I mean, finishing ahead of Jack in both races helps as well.
Absolutely. Well, go and get some practice in. I think Donington's one of the best tracks in the country, so I hope that with a bit of practice, you'll discover some of the magic of that place, and hopefully we'll see you back on the podium next week, Nicky. Best of luck.
Still think Snetterton wins, but thank you.
Now that could be a debate that would go on a while. We won't bore everyone with that tonight, and I will save my opinions on why Snetterton is an absolutely awful racetrack for another time. But thank you to our podium finishers for catching up with us. Some interesting perspectives on what went on in the races tonight, that is for sure. And we look forward to hearing from the drivers again in a week's time. Right then, what does all of this mean for the championship? Well, Jack Smith's had another trying night, but yet again, he's come out of it smelling of roses. His lead has dropped, though. He's now only 18 points clear of his DK Power Racing teammate Oliver Gibson, who, as I said, had a really solid night tonight. And Elliot Dalton-Ayres using this now as one of his drop scores as well. It's only a further 7 points back in third. Nicky Taylor, 4 points back in fourth position, and he's just one ahead of Joel Lask, who is 3 ahead of Carl Felder. So realistically, those 6 now, would you say, Lewis, are starting to separate themselves at the front now, realistically going to be one of those drivers who takes the title?
Yeah, I think it is. It's going to be more of an ask for, I would say, I reckon the top 3. It's going to require a pretty special couple of rounds from Nicky, Joel and Kyle, and I think it's a tiny bit out of reach for first place for those further back, yeah. But it's close, and Kyle's definitely, as you predicted earlier on in the race this evening, he's brought himself back into contention now.
He has indeed, and it sets us up for an interesting final 2 weeks of racing now. Like I said, we head to Donington Park next time, a circuit that always generates really interesting racing, and then, Hockenheim for the final round of the championship. 2 very different tracks, should favour different cars, different drivers, and who knows, we might yet have a grandstand finish to the season. 2 weeks of racing to go then, and looking forward to some more of the action in the final couple of weeks of what has been a fantastic season. Right then, I think we're nearly done. This is usually where Lewis throws a graphic at me that I wasn't expecting to have, but I think, there it is, the fun race. Oh, now, hello. This is an interesting car track combination. Our fun race, Lewis, is an opportunity for people out there who want to try and get involved in racing here at the VRRC, but don't necessarily want to commit to a full season of racing. And I'm going to hand over to you now to A, explain how that works, and B, tell me how on earth we pronounce the name of our track of choice.
If Eric's around somewhere, he would be the perfect person to explain, because I believe it's in Sweden, given the colour scheme of the graphic. It's in Poland. Okay, no, it's it's just the colour of the graphics. I just guessed based on the blue and yellow. Reasonable guess.
No, it's in Poland.
I have no idea how you say it, but yeah, as Andy said, the fun race.
There we go.
There we go. That is where it is, in the Gorilla Mods Porsche 992 Cup car. Really good, fun car to get stuck into. It drives like a proper Cup car as well. You can slide it around and really use the curbs. Really satisfying car to drive, but it's a really great way for people to get into racing with us if they don't want to commit to a full championship just yet. It's a really good way to kind of see what it's like. It's kind of your demo for VRRC, and we've had a lot of people who have been doing these fun races with under Eric's watch and have actually signed up for our future championships. So they are working and bringing in some new people. People are loving what we're doing, and they are joining us. Rather quickly, we also have the Time Attack run by Andy Carroll. We've got a French hot hatchback type theme, and we're in the Clios at Paul Ricard this week. Our next special event will be the Le Mans multi-class event in the LMP2 and GTE category. You do not want to miss this one. Proper endurance, 90 minutes at one of the greatest racing tracks in the world into incredible mods. And then after that, we have the upcoming championships, but more on that very soon.
Excellently done, Lewis. I'm glad someone knows what's going on. We have enjoyed having your company tonight, everyone. Hope you've enjoyed the racing from Zandvoort. We've had plenty of action. The championship has taken another twist and a turn. And with 4 races still to go, just 18 points separating the top 2. Could we see a late rally from Oliver Gibson at Donington Park next week to really close the gap on his teammate? You'll have to tune in at the same time and same place to find out. We'll all be here, hopefully with Jack Oliphant back in the commentary box as well. But Lewis, thank you very much for subbing once again this week. Regardless, we'll all be here to enjoy the action from our penultimate round of the VRRC Touring Car Championship in just a week's time.